If this offends you, good, because comfort has been lying to you. Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they avoid the brutal truths that would force them to grow. Stoicism was never meant to make you feel better. It was meant to make you stronger. And tonight, I'm giving you 8 brutal Stoic laws that will strip away your excuses, destroy your victim mindset, and force you to become someone unrecognizable. In the next 30 seconds, you will realize something uncomfortable. You are not stuck. You are undisciplined. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But what he didn't say loudly enough is this: if you refuse to control your mind, the world will control you. And another 30 seconds from now, this may hit even harder. No one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not your parents, not motivation, not luck. The Stoics didn't wait for inspiration. They built character in silence. And by the end of this video, you will either feel attacked or awakened. There is no middle ground. Law 1. Your feelings are not commands. At dawn, Rome is quiet in a way that feels almost sacred. The marble beneath Marcus Aurelius's sandals still holds the night's cold. Before the noise of politics, before the chaos of generals, before betrayal, before praise, there is only one battlefield that matters: the mind. A young officer once asked him, "How do you stay strong when you feel overwhelmed?" Marcus did not say, "I don't feel." He said something far more brutal. He wrote in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice what he did not say. He did not say you have power over your emotions. He said you have power over your mind. Because feelings are signals. They are not orders. And the day you treat them like commanders is the day your growth stops. Pause for a moment, breathe in slowly, and say it with me. Feelings are data, not decisions. Again, feelings are data, not decisions. This is not suppression, this is sovereignty. Neuroscience shows that an emotional surge lasts about 90 seconds in the body unless you feed it with narrative. 90 seconds. That means the anger, the embarrassment, the fear you feel right now is a chemical wave. The rest is the story you attach to it. Marcus understood this centuries before brain scans. When he felt insulted, he didn't react. He observed. Observation creates distance. Distance creates power. Think about the last time you quit something. Was it because it was impossible or because you felt tired? Was the workout truly beyond your capacity or did your mood vote against it? Modern productivity studies show that discipline, not motivation, predicts long-term success. Angela Duckworth's research on grit demonstrates that sustained effort over time outweighs raw talent. But grit requires one core skill: not obeying your emotional weather. Weather changes. Character remains. Reset. Slow breath in. If you obey every feeling, you will build a life designed by moods. And moods are unreliable architects. Marcus ruled an empire during plague, war, and political corruption. He buried children. He faced betrayal. Yet he wrote calmly to himself, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That is brutal. It means the suffering multiplies when your interpretation multiplies it. This is where most people lose. They confuse sensation with truth. Here is the practical shift. When you feel anxiety before a hard conversation, do not ask, "How do I remove this feeling?" Ask, "What action would the stronger version of me take despite this feeling?" That question rewires identity. Identity-based behavior change research shows that actions aligned with chosen identity are more sustainable than outcome-driven actions. If you see yourself as someone who acts with courage, you will speak even while your heart races. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is behavior in its presence. Let me give you a modern example. Navy SEAL training is designed around emotional stress. Candidates are exhausted, cold, humiliated. In Hell Week, most quit not because of physical collapse, but because of emotional overwhelm. Trainers repeat a principle: control what you can control in the next 5 minutes. That is Stoicism in uniform. Focus the mind, not the mood. Marcus would approve. Reset again. Breathe. Say quietly, "I choose action over impulse." One more time. I choose action over impulse. Growth demands friction, and friction feels uncomfortable. If you interpret discomfort as danger, you retreat. If you interpret discomfort as adaptation, you advance. The brain is wired to avoid pain, but the Stoic mind is trained to reinterpret it. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Most people quote that. Few practice it. Because reaction is fast, response is trained. Reaction belongs to emotion. Response belongs to discipline. And discipline is a muscle. Studies in behavioral psychology show that self-control operates like a limited resource, but can be strengthened through consistent practice. That means every moment you resist acting on impulse, you are not suppressing yourself, you are strengthening yourself. Now let's get brutally honest. Many people claim they trust their feelings, but feelings are influenced by sleep deprivation, blood sugar, childhood conditioning, social media comparison, and unresolved trauma. Would you let something that unstable dictate your future? Marcus wrote his meditations not to feel better, but to think better. He did not wait to feel motivated to do his duty. He did it because it was right. Practical exercise. For the next 7 days, implement the 90-second rule. Whenever you feel anger, insecurity, or laziness, do nothing for 90 seconds. Observe the sensation, label it. This is anger, this is fear. Labeling emotions has been shown in fMRI studies to reduce amygdala activation. That means naming the feeling reduces its intensity. After 90 seconds, ask, what is the disciplined action here? Then execute that action immediately. No negotiation. Reset. Deep breath. Say it with me. I am not my mood. I am my choices. Again. I am not my mood. I am my choices. That sentence alone can change a decade of your life. Because when you stop identifying with every emotional shift, you gain stability. And stability creates consistency. And consistency compounds. Let's talk numbers. If you improve your behavior by just 1% daily, compounded over a year, that is a 37 times improvement. That is not motivational fluff. That is mathematics. But 1% daily requires showing up even when you do not feel like it. This is where Law 1 separates adults from children. Children obey emotions. Leaders guide them. Marcus did not silence his emotions. He governed them. Governance requires structure, so build structure, fixed wake time, fixed workout slot, fixed reading block. Structure reduces emotional decision-making. When behavior becomes scheduled, mood becomes irrelevant. High performers reduce the number of daily decisions to preserve cognitive bandwidth. That is Stoic design before Silicon Valley biohacking. Here is the truth most people avoid. If you let feelings lead, you will constantly renegotiate your standards, and renegotiated standards decay. Seneca warned, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Imagination feeds emotion. Discipline starves it. Every time you override a destructive impulse, you reinforce a new identity. Identity is destiny. But let me be clear. This law is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming deliberate. Emotional intelligence does not mean emotional obedience. It means emotional awareness plus chosen action. Marcus could feel grief and still act with justice. That is strength. Reset one last time before we close this gate. Breathe in, hold, exhale slowly. Say quietly, feelings inform. They do not command. That is Law 1. If this law unsettles you, good. Growth always begins with discomfort. Most people will hear this and nod. Few will practice it tomorrow morning when the alarm rings and motivation is absent. That is where transformation hides. In the next part, we step into Law 2. Stop expecting people to be fair. And this one is even more brutal. Because once you master your emotions, you must confront something harder, other people. And most suffering begins there. But before you move on, commit. For 7 days, do not obey your first emotional impulse. Observe, label, choose. Comment one word, discipline. That word signals you are ready to lead your mind instead of being led by it. And in the next law, we remove the second illusion that keeps people weak. Law 2, stop expecting people to be fair. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up each morning expecting loyalty. He woke up expecting human nature. In his meditations, he wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." That sentence shocks modern ears. It sounds pessimistic. It is not. It is preparation. Because disappointment only hurts when expectation is naive. And most suffering is not caused by injustice itself, but by the shock that injustice exists. Pause. Slow breath in. Say it with me. People act according to their nature, not my preferences. Again, people act according to their nature, not my preferences. That sentence alone removes half of your emotional volatility. The Stoic does not assume goodness. He assumes humanity, and humanity includes selfishness. Think about the last time someone betrayed you, a friend who didn't show up, a colleague who took credit, a partner who broke trust. What hurt more, the act itself, or the story in your head that said, they shouldn't have done that? Neuroscience shows that social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. That is real, but the added suffering often comes from violated expectation. When you build your peace on other people's behavior, you build on unstable ground. Reset, breathe. Say quietly, I prepare, I do not complain. Marcus ruled during war and plague. Senators plotted against him. Generals failed him. Yet he wrote, they act like this because they cannot distinguish good from evil. He did not excuse behavior. He contextualized it. Context removes shock. Shock creates emotional overreaction, and emotional overreaction destroys clarity. Modern psychology confirms what Marcus practiced. The fundamental attribution error shows that we judge others' actions as character flaws while excusing our own as circumstances. Stoicism flips that. It trains you to see human limitation before moral outrage. This does not mean tolerating abuse. It means removing surprise. Here is the brutal truth. If you expect fairness from a world driven by incentives, status, fear, and ego, you will be chronically disappointed. Economists describe human behavior through self-interest models. Behavioral science shows people often act irrationally under pressure. Why are you shocked when irrational beings act irrationally? Reset. Slow inhale. Say it with me. I expect effort, not fairness. That is the upgrade. When you shift from this should be fair to how do I respond skillfully, you regain power. Marcus believed that your character is the only true possession. Everything else is external. Let's talk numbers. Workplace studies show that 60% of employees report experiencing some form of unfair treatment annually. Promotions overlooked, recognition misallocated, credit stolen. If you build your stability on corporate justice, you will live in resentment. But if you build on personal excellence, you become untouchable. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Unfairness is friction. It reveals your reactive tendencies. It tests whether your discipline depends on applause. Most people want justice before effort. The Stoic demands effort before justice. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. Many people say they want fairness. What they often want is advantage. When advantage disappears, they call it injustice. Marcus trained himself to separate ego from evaluation. Ask yourself honestly, are you upset because something is truly unjust or because it did not benefit you? Reset. Deep breath. Say quietly, my peace is not for sale. When you internalize that, external volatility loses leverage. This does not mean passivity. It means strategic response. Consider athletes at elite levels. Referees make bad calls. Studies in sports psychology show that teams who dwell on unfair officiating perform worse in subsequent plays. The best performers reorient immediately to controllables. That is Stoic training in motion. Focus on execution, not complaint. Practical exercise. For the next 7 days, practice premeditatio malorum. Each morning, anticipate one possible unfair scenario. Someone interrupting you, someone dismissing your idea, someone being rude. Visualize responding calmly. Research in cognitive behavioral therapy shows that mental rehearsal reduces stress reactivity. When the event occurs, you are not surprised. You are prepared. Reset. Breathe. Say it with me. I respond, I do not react. Again, I respond, I do not react. Reaction is ego. Response is discipline. Marcus also wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That line is famous but rarely lived. When treated unfairly, most people mirror behavior. They gossip, they withdraw effort, they justify mediocrity. That is self-sabotage disguised as righteousness. The Stoic path demands something harder. Excellence regardless of recognition. Here is the psychological pivot. Expecting fairness is a form of emotional outsourcing. You outsource your equilibrium to unpredictable actors. When you reclaim that equilibrium internally, you become stable. Stability compounds. Unstable people chase justice. Stable people build leverage. Reset. Slow inhale. Say quietly, I control my conduct. That is the anchor. If someone disrespects you, you still choose dignity. If someone lies, you still choose integrity. Integrity is independent of outcome. Let's examine betrayal. Studies show that rumination increases cortisol levels and prolongs emotional distress. The longer you replay unfairness, the longer your nervous system stays activated. Stoicism interrupts rumination by shifting focus to action. What lesson is here? What boundary must be set? What skill must be improved? Do not misunderstand this law. It does not tell you to tolerate abuse. It tells you to remove the fantasy that the world will operate according to your internal script. Fairness is not guaranteed. Response is, reset again. Breathe. Say it with me. I am prepared for human nature. This line alone can prevent years of resentment. There is a paradox here. When you stop expecting fairness, you become calmer. When you become calmer, you perform better. When you perform better, opportunities increase. Indifference to fairness often leads to advantage. Not because the world becomes fair, but because you become focused. Marcus faced rebellion within his own empire, yet he chose patience over paranoia. Why? Because panic clouds judgment. Judgment directs outcomes. Emotional steadiness is strategic capital. Now the brutal question, who are you becoming when things are unfair? Bitter, reactive, small, or strategic? Law 2 is not about them. It is about the version of you that emerges under pressure. 7-day challenge. Each time you experience unfairness this week, do 3 things. First, label the event factually without narrative. Second, identify one controllable action. Third, execute that action immediately. No venting, no gossip, just disciplined adjustment. Reset, deep breath. Say quietly, my growth does not require fairness. That sentence is freedom. In the next part, we enter Law 3. Pain is tuition. And this is where Stoicism becomes even more uncomfortable. Because unfairness is external. Pain is personal. And how you interpret pain determines whether you repeat cycles or break them. Comment one word, steady. That word signals you are no longer surprised by human nature. And when you are no longer surprised, you are no longer destabilized. In the next law, we examine the cost of suffering and why most people pay twice. Law 3, pain is tuition. Marcus Aurelius understood something most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. Pain is not an interruption of growth. It is the entry fee. When Rome was ravaged by plague, when armies threatened the empire's borders, when betrayal moved quietly through the Senate, Marcus did not ask, why is this happening to me? He asked, what is this teaching me? That single shift in perspective separates those who repeat cycles from those who evolve. Pause for a breath. Slowly inhale. Say it with me. Pain is tuition, not punishment. Again, pain is tuition, not punishment. The human brain is wired to interpret discomfort as danger, but adaptation requires stress. In exercise science, muscles grow only after microscopic tears. In neuroscience, new neural pathways form through challenge and repetition. In psychology, resilience develops through exposure, not avoidance. Growth is biologically tied to discomfort. Yet most people experience pain twice. First the event, then the resistance. Marcus wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That is not poetry, it is instruction. The obstacle is not in your path, it is your path, but only if you decide it is. Think about a personal failure, a business collapse, A broken relationship, public embarrassment. The initial pain is unavoidable. But what happened next? Did you analyze it or personalize it? Studies in cognitive behavioral therapy show that interpretation determines emotional duration. Those who see failure as information recover faster than those who see it as identity. Reset. Slow breath. Say quietly, this is data. This is training. Pain without reflection becomes trauma. Pain with reflection becomes transformation. That is the dividing line. Marcus did not suppress grief. He examined it. He wrote nightly reflections, not to complain, but to calibrate. Let's talk numbers. Research on post-traumatic growth suggests that nearly 50 to 70% of people report positive psychological change after major adversity. Increased personal strength, greater appreciation of life, clearer priorities. But here's the catch. Growth does not come automatically from pain. It comes from processing pain. That processing requires courage. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men." Testing implies refinement. The furnace does not destroy gold, it purifies it. But only if the gold remains. Many people exit the furnace early. They distract, they numb, they blame, they escape into comfort. That is wasted tuition. Reset. Inhale deeply. Say with me, I pay once, I learn once. Most people pay twice because they refuse the lesson. Consider financial mistakes. Someone loses money in an investment. Instead of analyzing risk management, they avoid investing entirely. Fear compounds ignorance. The cost multiplies. Marcus viewed suffering through the lens of agency. Even when external events were uncontrollable, his interpretation was not. Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Pain is often outside your control. Meaning is not. Let's examine something modern. Elite athletes deliberately expose themselves to stress, cold plunges, high-intensity intervals, public competition. Why? Because voluntary discomfort increases stress tolerance. Studies show controlled stress exposure enhances resilience and reduces anxiety over time. Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort centuries earlier. Sleeping on harder beds, fasting, wearing simple clothing. Why? To train the mind not to collapse under deprivation. Reset. Breathe. Say it with me. Discomfort is preparation. Again, discomfort is preparation. If you only grow in comfort, you do not grow. You inflate. Now let's get personal. Maybe you were betrayed. Maybe your childhood lacked stability. Maybe you failed publicly. These events are real. But the Stoic question is not why me? It is, what skill is this forcing me to develop? Patience, boundary setting, emotional regulation, strategic thinking? Every pain contains a skill opportunity. Neuroscience shows that when you reframe pain as challenge instead of threat, your physiological response changes. Heart rate stabilizes faster. Cortisol decreases more quickly. The brain shifts from defensive to adaptive mode. Interpretation changes biology. Marcus did not romanticize suffering. He did not seek it recklessly, but he did not waste it. That is the key. Wasted pain turns into bitterness. Integrated pain turns into strength. Reset. Slow inhale. Say quietly, I extract value from hardship. Growth demands integration. Integration requires reflection. So here is your exercise. 7-day practice. At the end of each day, write down one discomfort you experienced. Ask 3 questions. What happened factually? What emotion did I feel? What skill is this event inviting me to develop? Then design one small behavioral adjustment for tomorrow. This turns pain into curriculum. Most people journal feelings. Few journal lessons. Marcus journaled principles. He turned daily adversity into philosophical sharpening. Consider leaders in history. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. He later said prison became his university. Viktor Frankl survived concentration camps and wrote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That is Stoic resilience in extreme form. Reset. Breathe. Say with me, I am being trained. That phrase transforms victimhood into apprenticeship. But there is a brutal warning here. Not all pain makes you stronger. Only processed pain does. Unexamined pain becomes projection. Many people hurt others because they never studied their own hurt. Stoicism demands accountability. Marcus lost children to illness. He governed during chaos. Yet he wrote calmly, reminding himself that suffering is part of nature's design. He did not collapse into self-pity. He chose duty. Duty creates structure when emotion creates instability. Let's bring it back to you. What pain are you currently resisting? A difficult conversation? Financial pressure? Career stagnation? Instead of asking when it will end, ask what it is building. Muscle grows under tension. Character grows under adversity. Reset. Deep breath. Say quietly, I refuse wasted suffering again. I refuse wasted suffering. Here is a hard statistic. People who adopt a growth mindset recover from setbacks faster and pursue challenges more persistently. That is not motivational hype. That is educational psychology. When pain becomes proof of effort instead of proof of inadequacy, persistence increases. Seneca warned, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. But strengthening implies stress. You cannot demand growth and reject difficulty simultaneously. Now imagine this. Every painful event in your life is a training session. Some you passed, some you skipped, some you failed, but all were tuition. The question is whether you graduated. In the next law, Marcus removes another illusion. Law 4, no one is coming to save you. And this is where personal responsibility becomes unavoidable. Because pain teaches, but no one else will integrate the lesson for you. Before moving on, commit to the 7-day integration practice. Comment one word, stronger. That word signals you are done seeing pain as punishment. You are ready to see it as preparation. Law 4, no one is coming to save you. Marcus Aurelius did not inherit a peaceful empire. He inherited chaos, war at the borders, disease within the cities, political tension behind every curtain, and yet he never waited for rescue. He never wrote, I hope someone stronger fixes this. He wrote reminders to himself, because Stoicism is not about external rescue. It is about internal command. Pause. Slow breath in. Say it with me. I am responsible for my direction. Again, I am responsible for my direction. That sentence alone removes a lifetime of excuses. Many people secretly believe someone will eventually step in. A mentor, a partner, a government, a lucky opportunity, a perfect moment. But Marcus would say this is fantasy disguised as hope. Epictetus taught, no man is free who is not master of himself. That means dependence is a quiet prison. Waiting for someone to change your situation keeps you emotionally immobilized. Research in psychology calls this learned helplessness. When individuals repeatedly experience lack of control, they begin to stop trying even when control becomes possible. Stoicism is the antidote. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, I move first. That is the shift. Because the world does not reward potential, it rewards initiative. Marcus faced military defeat. He faced plague. He faced betrayal. Yet he did not freeze in resentment. He acted. Let's look at modern parallels. Studies show that people who adopt an internal locus of control report higher life satisfaction and greater professional success. An internal locus means you believe outcomes are influenced by your actions, not external fate. External locus thinkers wait. Internal locus thinkers build. Here is the brutal truth. If you are waiting for motivation before acting, you are already behind. Motivation follows action more often than it precedes it. Behavioral science confirms that small initiated behaviors create momentum through dopamine reinforcement. The first step is rarely emotional, it is deliberate. Reset. Inhale slowly. Say with me, action creates clarity. Clarity does not create action. Many people say, when I feel ready, I will begin. Marcus would respond, you become ready by beginning. Consider financial instability. Many individuals wait for income to increase before improving financial habits. Yet wealth psychology research shows that discipline precedes growth. Budgeting, tracking expenses, investing consistently. These behaviors do not require rescue. They require responsibility. Marcus wrote, Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That is Law 4 in its purest form. Stop debating. Start embodying. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, I stop outsourcing my future. That phrase dissolves victim mentality. Victimhood is not always dramatic. Sometimes it hides in subtle language. If only they, if only circumstances, if only timing. Stoicism replaces if only with even if. Even if conditions are imperfect, act. Even if support is limited, act. Even if recognition is absent, act. Research in entrepreneurship reveals that successful founders often begin with incomplete information. They adapt in motion. Waiting for perfect knowledge stalls progress. Marcus governed without certainty, yet he governed. Let's talk about identity. When you see yourself as someone waiting to be saved, you unconsciously diminish your agency. Identity-based change theory shows that behavior aligns with self-concept. If your self-concept is passive, your behavior will be passive. Shift the identity to builder, and behavior follows. Reset. Slow inhale. Say it with me. I am the builder of my life. Again, I am the builder of my life. Now, this law can feel harsh, especially if you have experienced real hardship. Stoicism does not deny injustice. It denies surrender. You may not have chosen your starting point, but you choose your next step. Consider historical figures who rose without rescue. Frederick Douglass escaped slavery and became a leading intellectual voice. No rescue team, just relentless agency. Viktor Frankl survived unimaginable conditions and wrote about meaning as choice. Marcus would recognize this strength. Let's bring it closer. Career stagnation, relationship dissatisfaction, health decline. Many people stay in complaint cycles for years. They hope change arrives externally. But no one else will wake up at 5 a.m. for you. No one else will exercise for you. No one else will have the difficult conversation for you. Reset. Deep breath. Say quietly, I act without waiting. Practical exercise. For the next 7 days, identify one area where you have been passively hoping for improvement. Each morning, take one proactive step in that area before 10 a.m. It could be sending a message, scheduling a meeting, applying for a role, starting a workout, reading for skill development. The rule is simple: proactive before reactive. This rewires helplessness into agency. Neuroscience shows that small acts of agency increase perceived control and reduce stress response. Action stabilizes emotion. Marcus ruled during crisis because he did not expect rescue. He expected responsibility. Responsibility is heavy, but it builds strength. Reset. Inhale deeply. Say with me, responsibility is power. Most people see responsibility as burden. Stoics see it as leverage. Here is the paradox. When you stop expecting rescue, you become more attractive to opportunity because people gravitate toward those who move without complaint. Competence compounds. Seneca wrote, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Preparation requires movement before opportunity appears. Now imagine this scenario. 10 years from now, you look back. Will you see a decade of waiting or a decade of building? Law 4 forces this reflection. No one is coming. And that is good news, because it means the door is already in your hands. Reset one last time before we close this gate. Breathe in, hold, exhale slowly. Say quietly, I do not wait. I build. In the next law, we confront something subtler but equally dangerous. Law 5. What you avoid owns you. Because even when you take responsibility, avoidance can quietly sabotage progress. And that is where courage becomes unavoidable. Comment one word: builder. That word signals you are done waiting, you are done hoping, you are done outsourcing. You move first. Law 5. What you avoid owns you. Marcus Aurelius knew that the most dangerous enemies were not always outside the gates of Rome. Many of them lived inside the mind. Fear unexamined, conflict postponed, decisions delayed. He understood a truth that most people discover too late. Avoidance does not remove discomfort. It transfers power. Whatever you refuse to face begins to control you quietly. Pause. Slow breath in. Say it with me. Avoidance is silent surrender. Again, avoidance is silent surrender. The human brain is wired to avoid short-term discomfort. Neuroscience shows that when we anticipate something unpleasant, the brain's threat system activates even before the event occurs. That activation feels uncomfortable. So we postpone, we distract, we scroll, we rationalize, but postponement increases anxiety. Studies in behavioral psychology show that avoidance behaviors reinforce fear circuits, making the original discomfort stronger over time. Marcus wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your dominant thought is, "I'll deal with it later," you condition weakness. Delay compounds doubt. The Stoic does not rush recklessly, but he does not hide. Reset, breathe. Say quietly, "I face it now." That sentence interrupts procrastination, because procrastination is rarely about time. It is about emotion regulation. We delay not because tasks are hard, but because feelings are uncomfortable. Research confirms that procrastination is linked more closely to emotional avoidance than laziness. Think about that difficult conversation you keep postponing. Each day you avoid it, your confidence shrinks. The unspoken tension grows. The imagination exaggerates outcomes. Seneca warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Avoidance feeds imagination. Action corrects it. Let's talk numbers. A study published in the Journal of Behavioral Decision-Making found that people who procrastinate experience higher stress levels and lower long-term performance. The temporary relief of delay is outweighed by cumulative anxiety. Avoidance feels safe in the moment, but expensive over time. Reset. Inhale slowly. Say it with me. Short-term comfort, long-term cost. That is the trade most people make unconsciously. But Stoicism demands awareness of trade-offs. Marcus governed an empire during crisis. Imagine if he had delayed military decisions because they felt stressful. Delay in leadership creates instability. The same principle applies personally. If you avoid financial planning, debt grows. If you avoid health habits, decline compounds. If you avoid skill development, stagnation becomes identity. Now here is the brutal insight. Avoidance does not freeze the problem in place. It strengthens it. Fear grows in darkness. Exposure shrinks it. Modern exposure therapy is built on this principle. Repeated controlled confrontation with feared stimuli reduces anxiety response over time. The Stoics practiced voluntary exposure long before psychology formalized it. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, "I confront discomfort deliberately." Courage is not absence of fear. It is proximity to it. Let's examine social avoidance. Many people avoid networking, public speaking, or initiating opportunities because they fear rejection. Yet research shows that anticipated rejection pain is often exaggerated compared to actual outcomes. The mind inflates what it does not test. Marcus believed that obstacles reveal character, but avoidance prevents revelation. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to stress. Consider health. Avoiding medical checkups does not eliminate risk. It removes awareness. Avoiding financial review does not eliminate debt. It removes clarity. Avoiding relationship conflict does not create peace. It creates distance. Reset. Slow inhale. Say it with me. Clarity over comfort. Again. Clarity over comfort. Here is a personal challenge. Identify one task you have avoided for more than 30 days. Write it down. Now schedule the smallest actionable step within 24 hours. Not completion, initiation. Action reduces psychological resistance. Once momentum begins, inertia shifts. Behavioral momentum theory shows that starting with small actions lowers activation energy for larger tasks. Marcus understood momentum through discipline. He did not debate action endlessly, he acted. Epictetus said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" That question is piercing, because avoidance often hides beneath self-doubt. We avoid applying for promotion because we fear exposure. We avoid learning new skills because we fear incompetence. But stagnation is guaranteed incompetence. Reset, breathe. Say quietly, "I accept temporary discomfort for permanent growth." Now let's address emotional avoidance. Many individuals avoid processing grief, shame, or anger. They suppress. They distract. But suppressed emotion resurfaces in behavior. Stoicism does not promote suppression, it promotes examination. Marcus wrote daily reflections to confront internal resistance. He faced his own flaws in writing. Avoidance owns your schedule. It owns your mental bandwidth. It occupies your imagination. You think you escaped it, but it occupies you. Research shows that incomplete tasks remain cognitively active in the mind, known as the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished business creates mental tension. When you complete or initiate tasks, tension decreases. Avoidance multiplies cognitive load. Reset. Deep breath. Say with me, I finish what I start. Discipline is accumulated courage. Here is the 7-day exposure challenge. Each day, deliberately approach one minor discomfort. Make the call. Have the conversation. Start the workout. Open the financial spreadsheet. Limit it to one deliberate exposure daily. Track it. Watch how fear diminishes by repetition. Marcus believed that strength is forged through practice, not theory, not intention. Practice. Let's be brutally honest. Many people want confidence, but confidence is built through repeated evidence of self-trust. Avoidance erodes self-trust. Confrontation rebuilds it. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Courage is not dramatic, it is daily. Reset. Slow inhale. Say quietly, avoidance ends here. Imagine your future self 10 years from now. What areas of avoidance would he regret most? Health, skill, relationship, wealth? The cost of avoidance compounds quietly. The earlier you confront it, the smaller the interest rate of regret. Marcus would not negotiate with procrastination. He understood that the mind seeks comfort, but comfort rarely creates expansion. In the next law, we move deeper. Law 6. If you need praise, you're not free. Because sometimes we avoid not tasks, but silence. And dependence on validation becomes its own cage. Comment one word: courage. That word signals you are ready to step toward what you once postponed. Law 6. If you need praise, you're not free. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet he constantly reminded himself not to be intoxicated by applause. He understood something dangerous about praise. It feels like oxygen, but when you depend on it, it becomes a leash. He wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That line is devastating because it exposes the quiet prison of validation. Pause, slow breath in. Say it with me. Approval is optional. Self-respect is not. Again, approval is optional. Self-respect is not. The need for praise is deeply biological. Social acceptance once meant survival. Exclusion meant danger. So your brain still reacts to approval as reward. Dopamine spikes when you receive validation. Social media magnifies this ancient mechanism. But dependence on praise makes your behavior externally controlled. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, I act from principle, not applause. When your motivation depends on recognition, your consistency collapses in silence. Research in self-determination theory shows that intrinsic motivation, driven by internal values, leads to greater persistence and satisfaction than extrinsic motivation, such as praise or reward. Marcus governed without chasing popularity. He made decisions that angered powerful people. Why? Because integrity outweighed approval. Seneca warned, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." He was reminding himself that public opinion is unstable. Crowd emotion is volatile. Think about how often people adjust their behavior for likes, compliments, or social status. You may not admit it, but how many decisions are influenced by how they will be perceived? That is not freedom, that is performance. Reset. Slow inhale. Say with me, I do the right thing unseen. Again, I do the right thing unseen. That is Stoic independence. Studies in behavioral psychology reveal that people who rely heavily on external validation show greater emotional instability. Their mood fluctuates based on feedback. One negative comment can outweigh 10 positive ones. When praise is your fuel, criticism becomes poison. Marcus wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. That is slavery. When you need others to confirm your value, you surrender authority over your peace." Let's examine modern work culture. Many professionals overextend themselves for recognition. They burn out chasing titles. Yet burnout research shows that external validation does not sustain long-term fulfillment. Internal alignment does. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, "I define my worth internally." This law is brutal because it strips away social comfort. Imagine doing your best work and receiving no acknowledgement. Would you continue? That question reveals your level of freedom. True mastery is built in obscurity. Epictetus said, "If you seek truth, you will not seek victory by dishonorable means." Seeking victory includes seeking applause, but truth demands self-accountability. Here is the psychological pivot. Praise can be accepted without being consumed. The Stoic receives it calmly and releases it quickly. He neither inflates nor depends. Research in neuroscience shows that repeated reliance on external reward conditions the brain to seek constant stimulation. This weakens delayed gratification. Discipline requires independence from immediate reward. Reset. Slow inhale. Say it with me. I train in silence. Again, I train in silence. Now let's talk about criticism. If you need praise, you will fear critique. Fear of critique limits growth. Yet feedback is data. Marcus did not isolate himself from criticism. He filtered it. He asked, "Is this true?" If yes, correct it. If no, ignore it. Seneca advised, "Let us measure ourselves not by what we have accomplished, but by what we have overcome." Overcoming ego is greater than overcoming opponents. Here is a practical scenario. You start a business. Early traction is slow. No applause, no immediate success. Many quit here. Why? Because praise was the hidden motivator. But if growth is your motivator, silence becomes training. Reset. Breathe deeply. Say quietly, "I do not chase attention. I build ability." 7-day challenge. Each day, perform one meaningful task that no one will notice. Improve a skill privately. Exercise without posting. Read without announcing. Work without broadcasting. This retrains your nervous system to value internal progress over external reaction. Self-respect compounds quietly. When you rely less on praise, you become stable. Stability increases courage. Courage increases action. Marcus lived among flattery, yet he guarded himself from it. He reminded himself that praise is often shallow and criticism often emotional. Neither defines character. Now let's confront something uncomfortable. Sometimes a desire for praise hides insecurity. We seek affirmation to fill internal doubt, but no amount of applause can fix identity confusion. Identity must be built through discipline. Reset, slow inhale. Say with me, "I validate myself through action." Modern social platforms amplify comparison. Comparison fuels approval seeking, but comparison erodes individuality. The Stoic path is singular. It is about alignment with virtue, not audience. Marcus wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Notice what is missing. He does not say, "If it is popular, do it." Here is the paradox. When you stop needing praise, your influence increases. People trust those who are not desperate for validation. Authentic authority comes from internal conviction. Reset one final time before we close this gate. Breathe in, hold, exhale slowly. Say quietly, "My integrity is my reward." In the next law, we confront the hardest accountability of all. Law 7, your life is your fault, even when it's not. Because once you detach from validation, you must fully accept responsibility. And that is where most people retreat. Comment one word, independent. That word signals you are no longer chasing applause. You are building character. Law 7, your life is your fault, even when it's not. This is the law that most people resist, not because it is false, but because it removes the final refuge of the ego. Marcus Aurelius never claimed that life was fair. He lived through plague, war, betrayal, and loss. He did not choose all his circumstances, but he chose his response, and that is where power begins. Pause. Slow breath in. Say it with me. Responsibility is power. Again, responsibility is power. This law does not mean you caused everything that happened to you. It means you own what happens next. That distinction is everything. Psychology calls this the difference between blame and responsibility. Blame looks backward. Responsibility looks forward. Blame asks, who did this? Responsibility asks, what do I do now? Marcus understood that dwelling in blame weakens agency. He wrote, you always own the option of having no opinion. That includes the opinion that you are permanently damaged by your past. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, I control the next move. Research in cognitive psychology shows that individuals with an internal locus of control recover faster from setbacks and demonstrate greater resilience. This does not mean they deny hardship. It means they refuse to surrender authorship of their story. Let's be brutally honest. Some of you were betrayed. Some of you were neglected. Some of you started with less. That is real, but staying in victim identity guarantees stagnation. Viktor Frankl survived the unimaginable and wrote, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude. That is Stoicism under extreme pressure. Reset. Slow inhale. Say with me, my past explains me. It does not define me. This law is uncomfortable because it feels unfair. Why should I take responsibility for what I didn't cause? Because responsibility gives leverage. Blame gives relief. Relief is temporary. Leverage is permanent. Consider health. Maybe genetics influenced your starting point, but daily habits still influence trajectory. Consider finance. Maybe you inherited debt, but spending behavior still shapes the outcome. Consider relationships. Maybe someone hurt you, but emotional boundaries still determine your future dynamics. Marcus wrote, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. That statement is about responsibility. When wronged, your reaction becomes your responsibility. Reacting poorly multiplies damage. Responding wisely limits it. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, I choose my standard. Modern trauma research acknowledges that healing requires acknowledgement of harm. Stoicism does not deny pain, it refuses paralysis. There is a difference. Accountability empowers recovery. Let's talk numbers. Studies show that individuals who frame setbacks as learning experiences demonstrate higher performance in future challenges. Growth mindset research confirms that interpreting failure as skill development increases persistence by measurable margins. That is not motivational language. That is performance science. Now imagine two people who lose their job. One says, this proves I'm unlucky. The other says, this exposes where I must improve. 10 years later, their trajectories diverge. Same event, different ownership. Reset, inhale deeply, say with me, I own my response. Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. That is radical responsibility. Focus on controllables. Release the rest. This law also demands self-honesty. Sometimes what we label as unfairness is simply the consequence of our own inaction. Avoiding responsibility feels easier in the moment, but it erodes confidence. Consider relationships. Instead of asking, why are they always like this? Ask, why do I allow this dynamic? That shift reclaims power. Reset. Slow inhale. Say quietly, I correct my course. 7-day responsibility practice. Each day when something goes wrong, ask 3 questions immediately. What part of this was outside my control? What part was within my control? What specific adjustment can I make now? Write it down. Action follows clarity. Marcus never wrote as a victim. He wrote as a leader speaking to himself. He trained his mind to look inward first. Responsibility builds momentum. When you stop waiting for apologies, fairness, or rescue, you act. When you act, you change trajectory. Blame freezes. Responsibility moves. Reset. Breathe deeply. Say with me, I refuse permanent victimhood. This law does not erase injustice. It ensures you are not defined by it. It transforms hardship into leverage. Now prepare yourself. The final law is the most demanding of all. Law 8, you must become someone you respect. Because after mastering emotion, expectation, pain, responsibility, you face the mirror, and the mirror does not lie. Comment one word, ownership. That word signals you accept the burden of authorship. And in the final law, we shape identity itself. Law 8, you must become someone you respect. This is the final gate, and it is the most unforgiving one. Because after you have mastered your emotions, stopped expecting fairness, transformed pain into tuition, taken responsibility, confronted avoidance, detached from praise and owned your life, you stand alone in front of the mirror. And the mirror does not care about excuses. It reflects standards. Marcus Aurelius did not measure himself by applause. He measured himself by virtue. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." That sentence cuts through every illusion. Growth is not about appearing impressive. It is about becoming honorable in your own eyes. Pause. Slow breath in. Say it with me. I become what I repeatedly do. Again, I become what I repeatedly do. Identity is not declared, it is demonstrated. Behavioral psychology confirms that repeated action shapes self-concept. Each decision either reinforces strength or rehearses weakness. Most people chase goals. The Stoic chases character. Goals can be lost. Character compounds. When you become someone you respect, external success becomes a byproduct, not the foundation. Reset. Breathe. Say quietly, standards before outcomes. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. If a camera followed you for 30 days, your habits, your private choices, your reactions under stress, would you admire that person? Or would you rationalize him? Self-respect begins with self-honesty. Marcus faced daily pressure, yet he returned every night to examine his own conduct. He did not audit others first. He audited himself. Research on self-integrity shows that individuals who align actions with internal values experience higher psychological stability and reduced anxiety. Misalignment creates cognitive dissonance. That tension erodes confidence over time. Reset. Inhale deeply. Say with me, I live aligned. This law demands clarity. What traits do you respect? Discipline, courage, patience, integrity? If you admire them in others, you must practice them privately. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." But the most important association is with yourself. Are you improving yourself daily or negotiating standards? Let's talk about consistency. Studies in performance science reveal that consistent routines outperform intense bursts of effort. Becoming someone you respect is less about dramatic change and more about repeated integrity. Imagine this. You promise yourself you will wake at 6 a.m. You hit snooze repeatedly. No one else sees it, but you see it. That quiet breach of self-trust accumulates. Confidence is self-trust over time. Integrity is promise kept internally. Reset. Slow breath. Say it with me. I keep promises to myself. Marcus knew leadership required internal authority. Authority begins with discipline. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. Now here is the brutal insight. You cannot fake self-respect. You can display confidence publicly, but privately you know your standards. And that private awareness defines your mental state. Modern neuroscience shows that integrity reduces stress response because there is no internal conflict. Hypocrisy creates cognitive strain. Alignment creates calm. Reset, breathe. Say quietly, my actions match my values. Ask yourself, who would I need to become to earn my own admiration? Not social admiration, personal admiration. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Identity precedes behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. 7-day identity challenge. Define 3 traits you deeply respect. For the next 7 days, choose one small daily action that reflects each trait. If you value discipline, execute one disciplined behavior daily. If you value honesty, speak one uncomfortable truth respectfully. If you value courage, take one bold step. Track it. At the end of 7 days, review your actions. Identity grows through evidence. Reset. Slow inhale. Say with me, I build myself daily. Here is the paradox. When you become someone you respect, external validation becomes irrelevant. You no longer chase praise. You embody principle. Marcus faced death calmly because he respected the life he lived. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Beginning to live means aligning with virtue now. Let's close the circle. Law 1 taught you not to obey feelings. Law 2 taught you not to expect fairness. Law 3 taught you to treat pain as tuition. Law 4 taught you no one is coming to save you. Law 5 taught you that avoidance owns you. Law 6 taught you praise does not define you. Law 7 taught you to own your life. And Law 8 demands you become worthy of your own respect. Reset one final time. Breathe deeply. Say quietly, "I respect the person I am becoming." Now here is your final challenge. 10 years from now, when you look back, will you see someone who negotiated standards or someone who upheld them? Growth is not comfortable. It is earned. Comment one word: respect. That word means you are done seeking comfort. You are building character. If this series challenged you, good. That discomfort is proof of expansion. Subscribe to continue sharpening your mind. Because Stoicism is not philosophy for comfort. It is philosophy for power. Before you scroll away, pause for a moment. If even one of these laws made you uncomfortable, that's not negativity. That's growth beginning. Most people click off when things get hard, and that's exactly why most people stay average. In the next 30 seconds, you have a choice. Go back to comfort or step into discipline. Seneca said we suffer more in imagination than in reality. So imagine who you could become if you stop negotiating with weakness. And another 30 seconds from now, remember this: growth is not loud. It is quiet decisions repeated daily. If you are serious about building mental armor, financial strength, emotional control, and real discipline, this channel was built for you. This is not motivation. This is training. So subscribe to Making Life Better and commit to becoming the person your comfort zone fears. Don't just watch, transform.